The armed nation of Dwargon's East City was currently weathering a blockade of up to 60,000 people. But it was all a cover. Beneath the surface, both sides had made it clear that they were allied, the commanders all taking great pains to ensure that no unfortunate accidents took place. With that in mind, the mood among the lower-ranked soldiers was light. Camping tents had been set up across the area, each filled with idle chatter, but there was still a modicum of tension shared by everyone, even the rank and file. That indicated the surprisingly high level of training every member of the army had received. It was no wonder that morale was high. After all, their superiors were currently engaged in their final meeting, one where the dream of overthrowing the empire and building a new nation would come to a head. Everyone was looking forward to it, and everyone had their eyes on the capital in anticipation. That was why most of them noticed it at the same time. It's red. Is the capital aflame? What happened? Wait, did they find out? On this most critical of days, something was happening over in the imperial capital, and nobody thought it was a coincidence. Everyone knew that something had happened to their leaders. Should we send out a recon team? No, we need to organize our troops in March. Don't be stupid. If we do that, it'll completely expose us as traitors. Having all their superiors away from the force meant there was no one to take command. The composite division, already derided as a motley crew in the best of times, quickly lost cohesion. The one who finally brought them back in order was a person who had silently closed his eyes before then. His name was Zero, a man Yuuki named as corps vice commander, and he was the highest ranked person on the field. Silence. I will not allow anyone to act without permission. We will stay here and wait for Sir Yuuki and the others to return. That will remain our policy. With Zero's declaration, those wavering in their opinions fell back in line. Nobody knew what the right answer was, so for now, they decided to follow orders. But not even that could alleviate the anxiety. And those anxieties came true in the worst possible fashion. Good evening, you oblivious fools. I know it's a lovely night tonight, but that doesn't mean you should all get too excited. The woman walked along the street totally carefree, with the ease of a vacationing tourist. It was Velgrynd, her blue hair as beautiful as always. Wah, who are you? The soldiers on the far edges of the street shouted at her. As she was calling out to uniformed soldiers, she couldn't have been an innocent civilian, and even before that, anyone who didn't recognize Velgrynd's utterly unusual presence could never survive in the composite division. So they began confirming her identity, sending messages out to their superiors as they moved to surround her. One soldier, a man with decent confidence in his fighting skill, stepped forward. Whoa there, lady. I don't know who you are, but I wouldn't be picking a fight with this many people if I were you. We may not look all fancy, but we're in the composite division, the strongest army of the empire. It really is funny, isn't it, the weak calling themselves the strongest. I was willing to let it slide if it kept morale high, but perhaps we should have stopped allowing it at the division level. What? Velgrynd's words were those of someone at the highest reaches of society, someone giving orders from far above anyone else in the military hierarchy. It was more than enough for even the raw recruits to know they were dealing with someone dangerous. Zero, as vice commander, was no exception. When he heard this intruder was alone, he shipped himself over to see who it was, and once he heard the subsequent reports, he upped his pace toward the scene. Now Velgrynd was before him. Ma Marshal. He had never seen the marshal's face, but the presence she exuded was undoubtedly that of the overwhelming figure seated on the other side of the curtain. Ah, so there are some more intelligent ones among you as well. Good. I was told not to kill all of you, but just to have some fun until Kondo and the others arrive. With that signal, the tragedy began. Gazel was having a depressing day. The war was still dragging along, which was a headache by itself. But more than that, Jane's report made him feel like his stomach was going to rupture. Making true demon lords out of those serving him. What could possibly have gotten into Remure? He heaved a heavy sigh. Calling them true demon lords was something of a misnomer. Demon lord was a title, not a species, and it literally meant a lord who ruled over monsters within a set territory. True demon lord, however, described the status of a monster when awakened and evolved into that state. The threat they posed would be on the upper end of disaster class, but it wouldn't rate a calamity. Not that there are enough disaster class threats to merit dividing them into upper or lower classes, thought Gazel. The disaster class was essentially reserved for demon lords, so right now it consisted of only 8 known examples. Now, however, Remure had people working for him who were at least as powerful as those high-end menaces. Just thinking about it gave the heroic king a headache. For now, Gazel sent a griping missive to Amicia about it. He couldn't stand to be the only one suffering, so he decided to have her share in the distress a bit. That and his government decided to continue observing Remure and his band until further problems arose. It was just kicking the ball down the road, he knew, but there was nothing else they could do. If further problems ever came up, it'd be the beginning of a war for the survival of humanity. And I truly don't want that. Gazel sighed. But the bad news wouldn't stop coming. Urgent news, Your Majesty. The composite division is on the move. They're engaged in battle with an unknown enemy. The voice was calm, but Gazel sensed a panic atypical of his dark agents. Before more details came in, he immediately sent out word to assemble Dolph and the rest of his advisors. A few minutes later. No doubt about it. That enemy is nothing regular people can handle. It's a monster, an unimaginable monster who could even take down demon lords. A true dragon. Yeah. I've never seen one before. She took the form of a person, but there's no doubting her identity as Velgrynd. Gazel was on a magical call to Vaughn, Admiral Paladin and Supreme Commander of Dwargon's military, who was currently stationed by the East City. He had him send visuals so everyone could grasp the situation. The worst-case scenario always happens when you least expect it, a fact Gazel was all too aware of now. The sky was burning. There was a woman, a cold beauty, and crowds of powerful soldiers falling around her. The flames were mesmerizing but also vigorous enough to awe everyone who saw them. But the true horror only came after that. Velgrynd, visible through the surveillance crystal ball, looked over at Gazel and his team. He thought it was a coincidence at first, but the moment he did, the crystal ball shattered. She was watching us, too. I can't believe it. How is that possible? You're kidding. How far away do you think we are from there? It's the truth. She must have sensed the magic and traced it back to the caster, but it's incredible to see her impacting the magic's destination as well. It'd be impossible for me or any other humanoid. Gazel listened to his advisors in silence. Based on this, they were clearly dealing with an enemy. But who? He couldn't possibly hear her, but it was like she was whispering, "No, don't you peep on me," into his ear. A true dragon. More like true monster. Now Gazel knew what the word strongest really meant. He was familiar with the rumors of a connection between the Empire and Velgrynd. They had no way to confirm them, but he had played through a lot of scenarios in his mind so that they'd be able to withstand attack. Now, however, Gazel realized it was all just an illusion. It was unclear why the Empire had sent Velgrynd on the move at this point. Gazel thought and thought, but he couldn't understand what Emperor Ludor was thinking. There was only one thing he could do. "I'm going into battle as well." "Your Majesty," bellowed Dolph, "it's too unsafe." "But there is no other choice," replied Jane. "Abandoning Vaughn right now will do nothing to save Dwargon. You will need to prepare yourself too, Dolph." There was little Dolph could say in return. He had no intention of just letting Vaughn die, and as he now realized, admonishing Gazel would do nothing to change the situation. "I will make preparations to leave as soon as possible," said Dolph. "Very good." Gazel gravely nodded and closed his eyes. They had a lot of work to do. All their allied nations would need to be informed, and they'd have to give instructions on what to do with the remaining citizens in the area. If Gazel and his men were victorious, then great, but if they were defeated, what then? There was nowhere else for people to run to, no way of survival except to become imperial vassals. It meant the fall of the nation of Dwargon, and if Gazel wanted to avoid that, he couldn't afford to lose. The East City will not have enough room for our entire army, I imagine. I'll let the old guard handle command while the rest of the army marches on the ground. See to that for me, Jane. Very well. But what do you intend to do, King Gazel? I'm going on ahead. If you're late to this, don't expect a place at the table. Gazel revealed a bold smile, playing the role of a strong king to ease everyone's anxiety. The army was to be mobilized as quickly as possible, but Gazel's group wouldn't wait for them. Dolph and his Pegasus Knights would be the king's only companions. As Gazel flew across the sky, a thought occurred to him. Is this why Rimur gave his underlings all that power? So they could survive this? If so, I have to say he's as naive as ever. He laughed at this revelation, thinking about the ex-training partner that couldn't throw away his ideals. His smile was nothing he could hold back. Is something wrong, my lord? No, just a passing fantasy. I beg your pardon. Haha. Now, of all times, I started thinking about Rimur. It made me wonder if things could work out this time, too. Gazel laughed. He thought he was being overly optimistic, but it beat the opposite end of the spectrum. Indeed. Dolph smiled back. It was the case with Charybdis as well. Lord Rimur can simply boggle the mind at times. I was amazed at the connection he had with the demon Lord Milim. Well, if you're going to bring that up, you should also mention the hardships I've faced monitoring him. People assuming that everything I report back to them is a lie is growing tiresome. Henrietta usually kept her mouth shut, but even she had some sass in her at times. Gazel and Dolph couldn't hide their surprise. He. Sorry. I'll try to avoid assuming that next time. Even you have some complaints about your job, eh, Henrietta? Of course I do. Wahahahahaha. In that case, Henrietta, tell Rimur that next time you see him. Why, he's a pain to me as well. I trust you too firmly, but Rimur's behavior is simply too asinine to believe. When I heard the report from Jane, I began to question her sanity. Haha. It was one fearsome report, yes. Normally, I'm the one giving those reports, so it was nice seeing it unfold as a spectator this time. The venom Henrietta was spitting made both Gazel and Dolph laugh, their voices echoing through the sky. I will mention that I've sent a report of our activities to Lord Remure, along with some measured complaining. Did you? Gazel nodded and turned his head forward. The anxiety was gone now, replaced with his usual heroic flair as he flew toward the battleground.